Was it how it had to be? Love, well, I don't fault ya. When I weeks in my track, when I thought I saw from the cold and your beauty, jumping back on cameras, back on shoulder. I was jumping on the corner. October.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hoop City at the most wonderful time of the year. My gosh, and it has not disappointed as March Madness is off and running. The insanity is in full bloom. What a great first 2 days. I think it dispels some of the fears that the mid-majors can't compete with the high majors anymore because of all the NIL controversy, all the money. But anyway, we're going to dive into that, and we've got great guests today, and we're going to let's get right at it because we got so much to cover. If you have any questions about March Madness, 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. Love to have your insights, questions, observations of what you thought of the first 2 days and the exciting part about what's going to be coming up today. That's what I love about March Madness. I mean, we went from 68 teams 4 days ago. We're down to 32. This thing is ruthless. It's cutthroat. Win or go home. Win, head to your classroom, or in the case of High Point, go to your exclusive restaurants and go to your upscale spas and all that facilities. I'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. I'm joined this morning by the one, the only Josh Fenwick. Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Paul. Happy to be here with you. Excited that it's March. You know, we're in the best sporting window of the year, in my opinion, with this. And then shortly after, it's going to be the Masters. And then we'll have NBA playoffs. It's the beginning of something beautiful. Nice way to get us into the swing of spring.
Oh, very good with the Masters tie-in like that. My gosh.
That's my favorite tournament of the year.
Oh, my gosh. That's fantastic.
I'm a professional.
We also have Manib Khan with us this morning. Manib, great to have you here.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Obviously, love Saturdays. I missed the last 2 weeks. Missed you guys. Missed talking basketball with you, Paul, honestly. So great honor to be here. And March Madness, greatest time of the year, in my opinion, with sports. NBA, all the games are meaningful now.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. So there's so much happening in the world of just hoops.
It's an amazing time of the year. And Josh, I really appreciate your Canadian approach to your qualifying about this being the most wonderful time of the year. Here's the Canadian approach, in my opinion. I'm just glad you didn't say I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interfere with the hockey pundits out there.
That's okay. I can throw the. So sorry, eh?
Sorry,
Sorry to be a hoser there.
I'm so sorry, eh? Like, this is basketball. What's this stuff? Where's the puck? So we've got great hoops talk today. Our guests are incredible today. We've got Lisa Tomaitis, the head coach of the University of Saskatchewan. Lisa, in my opinion, is one of the finest coaches I've ever seen at any level. We had the privilege of having Lisa in Edmonton for many, many years. As people may now be forgetting, unfortunately, Edmonton was the home training center for the Canada basketball women's national team. And they were, I think, we were a major contributor in the ascendancy of the program when Lisa and her great staff brought this very hungry group of women into Edmonton, and they propelled from number 19 in the world to number 4 in the world by the time they moved away from Edmonton. So Lisa had a real presence here, and she's our community champion today. But she also, she's not bad. She just won back-to-back national championships. She was the coach of the national team, like I mentioned, for Canada basketball. When that ended, she went over to Germany and was their national team coach, led them to, I think, a career best or historical best for Germany for the women's program. So Lisa will be with us at 10:20. Then we have Mike DeCourcy. And Mike, I've had on the show over the years many times. He's been the lead writer for the NBA for the sporting news since 1995. And Mike is, I mean, you talk about going in the weeds. Mike is subterranean, under the roots. Like, he is the guy who just, he does all of the Fox News brackets. I mean, he's that good. Like, the guy's incredible. And then, of course, speaking of incredible, the great Ben Golliver comes back, and we really go into the NBA and Luka's 60 points and all the great stuff happening there. So we have a poll question today, Josh, and boy, is it as simple as it gets.
Oh yeah, it's the simplest one we've had so far, and personal bias can really play into this one. Does Duke make the Final Four this year? Yes or no? You can find that poll on our X account, Hoop City Show, at Hoop City Show, all one word, no underscores. Don't put any of those in there. But yes, will Duke make the Final Four? Yes or no?
Duke is such a polarizing entity. I don't know. I still don't quite have a handle on it. I've got, we all have our own theories and feelings, but back to the days of Christian Laettner, and even before, they were always regarded as the bougie school, rich boys, all of that. Then Laettner comes in, and he's like the anti-hero, stepping on, I forget the player's name, from Kentucky's chest. And in that same game, hitting probably what most people regard as the greatest shot in NCAA March Madness history, in amongst all those fabulous finishes. But the other day, Duke did not look good. They looked rattled. They looked flustered, both at the coaching level. And Manib, you mentioned that in your comments when we were walking in here, at the coaching level as well as the playing level. Cameron Boozer looked like a freshman, Josh, for the first time.
Yeah, I know. And he still had over 20 points. He still had a double-double. Like, that's crazy.
It really is. So, but let's jump into three from deep. Do our 3+1.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So our first one is about a tournament. However, not about March Madness. The 5A and provincials. Shep played a game. And how about that 5A format?
You know what? I'll make this, I hope, brief, succinct, but impactful. When I started as the executive director for Alberta basketball in 2008, one of the first things I tried to do, and it was either 2009 or 2010, I went and presented to the Alberta Schools Athletics Association, which is the governing body for high school sports in the province, all sports. And I made a presentation to the board of directors on a number of different issues, but one of them was go to a 5A or elite level category. And it was twofold. One, best plays the best in the provincials. That's not rocket science. But B, to combat the move to prep schools that was inevitable, that we're going to start taking kids out of the school programs and taking them into prep school programs. Now, I'm not condemning it overall. Overall, I'm not a fan of prep school programs. I think most of it's smoke and mirrors. Most of it's self-serving. There certainly is some good in it, but I believe the school experience it's more than just basketball. It's your friends, it's your social life, it's the order of progression in life where you get to have a holistic experience in school. So anyway, I presented that, and I take no credit or don't say, that's why they finally did it all these years later. But there were a lot of people like myself who saw the need for this. This is the first year for the 5A provincials, where we do have the elite schools from around the province competing on both the boys and girls sides. And yesterday, and they're being held in Edmonton, by the way, at Strathcona High School, at Harry Ainley High School, and at the great Saville Community Sports Center. And I put the asterisks by that with in spite of the parking. But we went and watched Raymond play McGrath. Now, I don't know if you know how much you know about Raymond and the Southern Alberta folks, and the impact, Josh and Manib. I don't know if you know their history.
Not enough.
No, as a guy who was born in South Alberta, I still don't know.
Okay, real quickly, because this is worth saying. We moved to Edmonton in 1987. My family, moved to Edmonton. My wife's from Edmonton, but we moved our family here then. And started paying attention to basketball and went to the provincial championships. And I want to say it was 1988. They were held at the University of Alberta in the old gym. And it was Raymond against McGrath. So I started asking questions. That's that's Mormon country, LDS country down there. My brother-in-law, Norm Watson, is LDS. So I started asking about it. I said, how big, this is pretty amazing. I thought those were rural schools. And he goes, well, they are. Raymond has 200 kids in their high school. 200 kids.
Whoa.
McGrath has less. And they're in the 4A provincial finals, and they're really good. Now, to me, that was like Hoosiers, the great movie Hoosiers, like all over again. But this was 1987. And I go, how in 1987 can this be happening? We're in 2026, and it's still happening. McGrath playing Raymond in the semifinals of the 5A with these teeny tiny schools. And Raymond will most likely, hopefully, run the table tonight against Western Canada, a huge school out of Calgary, who I can't stand. Absolutely loathe Western Canada. So Raymond, go kick their butts. I have reasons for that. But anyway, this is just an amazing story. So we went and watched Raymond play McGrath. Yeah.
What leads to their success at being at such a small school? Like, what is it? Scout? Like, is it the scouting of?
Dude, it's just basketball country down there.
It's the LDS mentality towards sports embedded into a community that knows how to compete. They have produced so many Division I and university and college athletes out of those three schools. Throw Cardston in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond also is a football powerhouse.
Yeah.
They've won 5A football many, many times with this teeny tiny school. So they just have a culture down there that just ingrains winning. Watching the Raymond girls yesterday, they have an outstanding player named Pippa Gibb. Her sister Delaney Gibb plays at BYU and is a phenomenal athlete in BYU. Like was an all-conference player for BYU this year as a sophomore. But all of their girls could run. They were all athletic. They had 5 or 6 girls that were legitimate snipers. Deep three. They played McGrath 6 times this year, beat them all 6. They beat them by like 40 points effortlessly yesterday. And McGrath's good.
Yeah.
They're going to square off against Jasper Place High School, Lauren Green, the wonderful coach for JP. She'll lead her team again. They got beat, unfortunately, by Western Canada yesterday in the semis. That'll be a great game between McGrath and JP. But I would look for Raymond, hopefully, to defeat Western Canada and hopefully run them off the court tonight. But that marvelous story. Real quickly, I went over, my son Steve played at Ross Shepherd High School. I had the privilege of coaching there with the great Dave Youngs, decades ago, and still have great loyalty. So we went and watched this game yesterday. It's Ross Shep against Strathcona in Strathcona to go to the 5th, 6th place game. They both lost in their first rounds. Skona's up 11 in the 4th quarter. Ross Shep hits 5 threes in a row, comes back, wins by 1.
Wow.
So you got your own March Madness right here. And, the excitement, it meant every bit as much to those girls, to their families, to their fans as anything that we watch on TV as well.
On that note, I texted Ben yesterday after that win that
Yeah.
he had. And,
Yeah.
I got to watch a little bit of that as well, just after, and want to congratulate him on, he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And they both are. I know Josh Spronk on the other side very well as well.
Yeah.
So college, basketball just in our city. And it's
really growing.
And I wanted to add, like, you're a huge part of that. And I want you to know, like, what you meant to not just Edmonton basketball, but like basketball Alberta, basketball Canada as a whole, right? Like, I think that you've been a huge part of that, and I want you to, like, right, honestly, truly hear from us, like, even from our generation, like, and that growing for us as well. And basketball, again, such a big part of my life, and I love it so much, love coaching it, love hearing about it, talking about it, watching it, right? And like athletes, and being involved in high school basketball now, it's so fun. The excitement, you talked about March Madness. Yeah, we had some games this year that were like so close, overtime, buzzer beaters. Like,
well, and that's where I go. Like, if that's where I go real quickly on the prep school thing, is you've got kids in their communities with their friends. Like, think how much your friends and your schools and your communities meant to you as you went through those years, those, let's call them formative years. You guys are still forming. You're young guys.
Yeah.
But how important that part of your life is, along with the sports. Now, 30 years ago, Canadians weren't on the radar south of the border.
Mhm.
Now it really doesn't matter. And here's where the delineation comes in with me. If you're an elite athlete, upper level, like let's say a Hudson Ward was.
Yeah.
Now Hudson stayed too long at prep school in Edmonton, in my opinion, but Hudson Ward should have gone to an upper level prep school elsewhere, gotten out of this community. But it served his purpose, playing here. He got a scholarship to Penn State over his ability. He's at Western Michigan. He's still struggling. He hasn't found his rhythm yet. But I think years 3 and 4 for him will be much better. But okay, take a kid like that. But 95% of the kids, 98% of the kids should just stay in their high schools, play with their friends, become the best players they do some club stuff, play some stuff like that to supplement and get better. But play rat ball with your friends, play some club, play for your school, have the whole experience. You're still going to become good based on what you do in the gym when nobody's looking anyway.
And when you're good enough, they'll find you.
They
will find you.
Those days are done.
Yeah.
There's very few guys that just slip through the cracks, like the Illinois kid who was 266. That's still going to happen. But he was still identified.
Yeah,
still going to get into
so
division.
rare.
Yeah, and kids up here are getting scholarships. We have 15 Albertan boys
Mhm.
playing D1 now.
Yeah.
Most
Long Island University's 2 leading scorers are from Canada.
Yeah. I mean, there are 168 Canadian men and 150 Canadian women
Yeah.
playing Division I basketball this year.
Yeah.
So 318 plus Canadian athletes. They'll find you.
They'll find you.
Absolutely.
Social media made it so, you can always get seen.
And you can't mixtape your way into
No.
a coach's heart. You've got to get identified, then you got to demonstrate. And also, by the way, guys, it's going to be harder now, unless you're an unreal freshman, to start breaking in, particularly at the upper echelons. The pathway now to Division I might not be going Division I. It might be playing youth sports and being really good. They'll find you that way too, or playing D2 or low-level D1 or junior college. Junior college is a great option because you don't use any eligibility.
Yes.
So it's all changing. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. We have our good friend Manib Khan with us today. And guys, I've waxed on way too long, and we've got Lisa. We really want to give her time today as well. But let's continue with our 3 from deep, Josh.
Absolutely. Okay, so March Madness on the men's side. Talk about some fantastic finishes. We saw it yesterday with Kentucky and Santa Clara. Santa Clara comes down, bang. Any other time, I would have been like, this game's over. But because it's March, I knew Kentucky would march down and get this basket.
Did you?
I was sitting there. I was like, any other time I would say this game's over, but like something's going to happen here.
Don't you think that's karma too? Because I was thinking, is that the basketball gods writing the universe for Kentucky after the Christian Laettner shot all those years ago? Now Kentucky gets a break. I picked Santa Clara. I
thought Santa Clara also.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did, because Kentucky hasn't, even though they have the largest quote unquote payroll in college basketball, they just haven't gelled. They demonstrate what can go wrong with NIL, of buying talent that doesn't gel.
But they got the short end of the stick when Cal kind of walked out the door with them. And because, a lot of transfers happened right after he walked out the door.
100%.
And I think regardless of the money that they have in flux, you have to find the right guys. Dan Hurley always talks about, like the recruitment process of it. I need 4 guys that are my guys. Right.
You need your dogs. Like
Yes.
Kelvin Sampson. He turns people away because they're not going to play the way he wants. Whereas if you're purchasing talent, if you're purchasing ratings and et cetera, you're right. But I thought the Kentucky thing was interesting. And then there is, my conversation with Mike DeCourcy that I recorded just before the show today. Mike goes into the controversy around the
Eligibility.
NIL?
Santa Clara coach wanting to call a timeout.
Timeout. Yeah.
And both sides are right, but in the end, it's just very human. The fact that the officials were sprinting down the court, the coach was too far away to get the officials' attention, and Kentucky did a great job of inbounding the pass for a lucky shot.
Yeah.
But they gave themselves the opportunity for that lucky shot by adjusting to it so quickly.
But that happens so often in college basketball.
Oh yeah,
It's absurd, especially in the madness of March.
Yeah.
It happens so often. And tough. I mean, we were just talking about it before you got here, Paul. A lot of coaching funny moments. I mean, there was a coach yesterday that wanted to fire his staff at halftime. Did you see that?
was that the Wisconsin coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, did you guys? Now, I wanted to ask you this. I saw this last night. This press conference with the Wisconsin coach. Now, I was wondering though, is this AI? Because of
Good
what he
question.
said. Did you see that?
No, I can probably go find it though really
Well,
quick.
would you do that? Before I comment on it, I want to make sure, because this is one I could look at and say, that's got to be AI.
You
Yeah,
said this is the
because what he
Kentucky
said-
coach?
Pardon?
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin. coach.
Wisconsin coach. Look that up. And when we get a couple of minutes, we'll talk about that. The other, of course, before we go to break, we have to touch on High Point, their win over Wisconsin. And Mike DeCourcy again goes into the complaining of how the High Point coach was not ready for this, because here this guy comes, and I don't know if you've seen any of the photos of what High Point is. You know anything about?
I have, yeah.
It's like
I
a
did.
it's like a resort.
Yeah.
You're going to a resort.
Yeah.
It must be $80,000 to go there. It-
Semester.
It could be. It could be, because it's like going to a 5-star resort
Yeah.
to go to school. But the irony in it, of course, that they won as an underdog, as High Point. Number 2, the kid that made the layup, and there were stories before the tournament that he hadn't made a 2 all year.
All year.
So he gets a breakaway layup in a fluke. It just, the irony in it is just crazy. So, High Point, they kind of dispelled the fear, although I hope we have time to break this down a little bit later too, but they kind of dispel the notion that the days of upsets are over. They are fewer. We got to go to break. Sorry, everybody, but there's just so much to talk about. This is so much fun. This is like 2 hours. We'll rant at you for 2 hours about March Madness. But we have the great Lisa Tomaitis that we have to bring on. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll have the privilege of talking with the 2-time back-to-back national championship winner from the University of Saskatchewan, Lisa Tomaitis, right after we take a break here on your Hoop City with Paul Sura on Sports 1440.
.com to get started. If you're without personal health insurance benefits from your employer and are self-employed or retiring, contact Innovative Benefits. Innovative Benefits helps break down personal health plans to put you in the driver's seat and reduce your net cost. They'll help identify the best plan for you and your family so you can pay for what you do use and look how to reduce what you don't use. Don't be left out in the cold. Understand all your options with Innovative Benefits. For more information, visit innovativebenefits.ca today.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, everybody. And I am honored and excited about our guest coming up. I'd like to welcome in the two-time back-to-back defending national champion, coach of the University of Saskatchewan Huskies, Lisa Thomaidis. Lisa, it's just such a privilege to have you on today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Paul. This is this is going to be fun. What a great time of year, hey?
Oh my gosh. My God. And the thing, Lisa, about it is it's the way the insanity just it's like bumper cart basketball of just phenomenal cool stuff going on. I mean, you had your youth sports championships. Right now, Canadian CCAA championships, I believe, are wrapping up today.
Yeah.
High school provincials are going on, March Madness for both men and women. And other than that, there's no basketball.
Exactly. I know. So much fun. I was just in Edmonton watching some of the provincials. I got back to Saskatoon. We had our high school cities. And like you said, youth sports already done. I've got NC2A in the background here. It's just, for those basketball fans, it's just the best time of year. So lots of excitement, lots of fun.
Well, speaking of lots of fun, Lisa, how would you describe, I don't think that's kind of lots of fun is the way you would describe winning another national championship, but talk about this road. I mean, I don't want to diminish what you accomplished by saying you rolled through the competition, because I know you had some challenges along the way to your undefeated regular season, but talk about the journey, because you had a bump in the road when you got to the playoffs.
We sure did. Yeah. That's always the fear, right? You rack up a bunch of wins in a row. So we had just an exceptional team. And I've said it a few times. The team, I think, was really the foundation was built in COVID. 5 of these players came in as first years during COVID, and we didn't have a season. And we learned a lot about them during that year, because we were allowed to kind of have individual training and these weird kind of restrictions in Saskatchewan, where if you were under 18, you could get together in small groups of under 4 or 5, something like that. And so during that year, these players just put in a ton of work. And, 2 from the Edmonton area played at St. Albert, Taya Demong, Maya Flindle came the following year. But I think that really was the start of things, just seeing them work and how much they put in to get better and to be great. And by their 3rd year of eligibility, they're in the national final, lose a close one to Carleton by 3 points in Edmonton. And I think, as much as they had a fire to compete and to win, that really lit it. And pretty much from a couple of weeks after that loss in the national final 3 years ago, this team was on a mission and turned around. And last year, again, it was a bit of a storybook ending there, getting a chance to play Carleton in the national final and avenge the loss from the previous year and, won in double digits. And then from November 2024 up until February, we went on a 52-game winning streak. And, it was pretty incredible.
That's not bad.
Yeah. You don't really think about it. You don't really realize it until all of a sudden, people start talking about it. Once you hit 50, that's a lot of games. But then, like you said, we hit a blip and semifinals in Canada West Championship, and on our home court, we lost to the Dinos, the same team that the last team that we lost to back in November. So I think a few coaches commented to me and texted me and said, as crappy as it is that the winning streak is done, you probably just increased your chances of winning the national championship because of that loss. So, you know what? Like, if that was what we had to go through to win a national championship, we'll take it. I mean, it's unfortunate we didn't get a chance to bring another Can West banner home, but by far winning a national championship is just incredible. And to do it again with this group, like I said, it's a bit of a fairy tale ending, 5 fifth years and 3 fourth years, and to go out on a winning note, like, who gets to do that? Who gets to do that in terms of a back-to-back national championship? So, yeah.
I can tell you who, Lisa. University of Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a bit greedy to say you're a little disappointed about not bringing the Canada West.
I know.
I mean, come on.
A bit of an embarrassment of riches, but
I guess
first
so.
world
No,
problems.
why didn't we get that? That poor Lisa's at home tormenting herself. We should have just had that one banner. You know, it's remarkable the way you described it, because the very little good, in my opinion, came out of COVID. But there are diamonds in the mud, and
Yep.
you just described one of those diamonds, to have the opportunity to work in a fundamental skill building, team building sense with the players that you described, who are obviously good players but high character people.
Yeah.
And to be able to build that kind of foundation that you described. And then I always love the stories in basketball, and obviously you've lived many of them, but you lose to Carleton and then you come back the next year and avenge that loss in the national championship game. Like, you can't make that up.
No, you can't. It really was an incredible storyline throughout the year, and then to finish it off that way. So yeah, pretty incredible for an amazing group of women.
Well, led by an amazing woman. I think you know this, though, the respect that I have for you personally, at least as a person and as a coach. But I always thought one of the highlights of having the senior women's national team make their home in Edmonton, in their practice and preparation for all those years at the Saville Community Sports Center, was the opportunity for our young girls in this community to be able to watch your teams practice and watch how you and your great staff coached those women at a time when Canada's team, coming off the surprisingly great finish in 2012 in London, when I think you were an assistant to Alison McNeil, I believe, at that time, when you surprised the world and qualified in Turkey to go to London, and then did very well, fared well. But that was the start of an amazing ascendancy that you were such an integral part of.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, yeah, it was an incredible run for sure. Like you said, kind of beat all the odds and qualified for the 2012 Olympics. That was just an amazing run. And thinking back to that time, like I remember in 2012 thinking, holy cow, this is the first time our Canadian women's national team is going to be on national TV. Like, our games were televised. And prior to that, we'd never played in Canada. People didn't know who our national team athletes were. It was really unfortunate. But 2012 was like the beginning of it, where people started to get to know these names and these incredible players that had invested so much of their life into this sport and into the national team. And then to be able to carry that through, like you said, being able to train in Edmonton, it became such a home for us, such a sense of community, and the support that we received there was incredible. And to be able to come back year after year and see those familiar faces, and then the culmination really being, AmeriCup, FIBA Americas, the Olympic qualifier, being hosted at the Saville in 2015, packed, sold out crowd, and just the environment there was,
Really
definitely
special.
one of the highlights of my competitive and basketball experience in life. So it was just fantastic, and so great for those athletes to be able to experience that and to be able to play in Canada at a meaningful tournament.
We have Manib is a host here on Sports 1440 with his own sports show, and he's one of our guest hosts today. He has a question for you.
Okay,
Hey,
sure.
Big fan. Thank you for everything you've done for sports and basketball culture in Western Canada and Alberta and Pacific. I just had a quick question about coaching overseas.
Mhm.
What is, there's a lot of conversation around, basketball culture in different places. In your opinion, obviously basketball's taken you to so many different places. Is there an actual difference between European basketball versus basketball in Canada? And if so, like or is that just kind of made up?
For sure, there's a lot of difference. I think, Canadian basketball, we're so influenced by the US, and, we see the NBA, we see the NC2A, we're so drawn in by that. And I think we model, I think, what happens down there, and in Europe, it's very different. I would say, the American model is much more one-on-one isolation, that type of basketball, where in Europe it is much more a team game. And so the fundamentals and how the game is taught in Europe is much more around, pass and cut and movement with and without the ball, and share the ball and change sides of the floor, and it's team play. Where again, like I said, in the US, it's a little more stand around and watch one guy go one-on-one and, find the mismatch or find the matchup that you want, and you kind of go at it. And so, I'd say that's the primary difference. And then how it's taught, you just see a whole different skill set, just a quick example with my German national team. We had, the majority of the players were 6'3" and over, but they had guard skills. And, prime example, you got Leonie Fiebig, who's a New York Liberty guard. She's 6'4" shooting guard. And, you just don't see that here. You kind of put players a little bit more in boxes as far as what position they play. And in Europe, again, it sounds a little bit cliche, but I'd say it's a little more positionless. It's learn how to play the game the right way. Everyone kind of has to learn all the skills, be able to handle the basketball, shoot it, and share it. And I'd say, again, because we're influenced so highly from the US, it's just a little bit different approach, I'd say, to skill development and how we teach it.
Great question and a great answer, Lisa. I think it'd be interesting if we could do an actual statistical chart of practice to game ratio, because I think it's probably like 4-1 in Europe, and it's probably 1-4 in North America in terms of practice versus play games. I think we play so many games here. Yeah. And like you said, box kids in at such a young age to what position they're playing, and then the emphasis on one-on-one and screen pick and roll basketball. That's a whole different discussion. If we had 2 hours, Lisa, we could start
totally break that down.
Surface on that topic. So, Lisa, you're no longer coaching the German national team. Are you just backing away from that kind of involvement now, national team, and just focusing in on your university experience? Or are there other facets that you're adding in that are different from the national team responsibility that you've had?
About a year ago, it became apparent that I was going to have to step down, because when the dates came out for this new system of qualifying for the World Cup, I saw that it was early March. And of course, early March is when our U Sports National Championships are. And so when I looked at that, I thought, I just don't know how I can possibly do this any longer. For the longest time, the FIBA windows were opposite any conflicting U Sports schedule. And so it was perfect. As much as it was incredibly busy, the Olympic qualifier for Paris was in February, and I had to miss some time with my Saskatchewan Husky team, but it didn't conflict in terms of playoffs or national championships. So when I saw this date, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to pull the plug at some point here. And the other thing was, my one German assistant coach was hired by the Golden State Valkyries, so I didn't have her on the ground in Germany kind of being my contact. And then my other assistant, Claire Meadows, who's a youth sport coach also with Queen's University, she was going to have the same conflict. And so I was stuck with, okay, I don't even have a staff. So, unfortunate, but the timing was right. I loved every single minute of coaching that German national team. We went on an incredible run over the course of 3 years. And it wouldn't have changed a thing. And so I think just kind of stepping away. I think the international coaching I've closed that chapter, and like I said, loved every minute of it. And now it's a little bit more of an opportunity to focus in. We've got a whole lot of recruits coming in next year to try to replace the special team that we had this season. So directing a little bit more of my time and efforts towards that, which I'm happy for as well.
Well, the line in Vegas that you'll be successful at that is about even. I think you're going to do just fine, Lisa.
You're sweet.
Lisa, it's such a pleasure. You're such a wonderful person, but you're a phenomenal coach, but you're a better person. And I appreciate the impact that you've had on young women's lives. One of your players is just been named the Coach of the Year in CCAA. Kira Lyons, also,
yes.
Kira's done a remarkable job. And there is no doubt that her experience in playing for you and in knowing you was a big contributed mightily to the success that Kira is growing into at NAIT. But Lisa, all kudos to you. Congratulations on another national championship. And thank you for making time and spending time with us today.
Absolutely. Anytime, Paul. I really appreciate this. Is amazing. Always fun talking basketball with you. You're such a promoter and such a, just hoops junkie, I guess. And love how much you support women in basketball and really appreciate all that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa Tomaitis, head coach, University of Saskatchewan, two-time national champions, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to listen to a phenomenal night. If you're a hoops junkie, as Lisa just said, you're going to want to listen to Mike DeCourcy in our next segment. Mike is the lead writer for the Sporting News, has been since 1995. And man, do we go into the weeds. And it is great, compelling conversation. Here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, Manib Khan on your Sports Leader, Sports 1440.
Every lunchtime, hang with Low Tide. Weekdays from noon to 2 on Sports 1440. Low Tide and Declan Kruger gives you the deep dives, sharp analysis. And Edmonton Sports Talk, done right. Your game, your station, Sports 1440.
What keeps Alberta business moving? It's pallets. Whether you're shipping, manufacturing, or looking for in-house storage solutions. Hi, it's Andrew with the Pallet Recycler here in Edmonton, and we've been providing reliable, affordable, recycled, and custom pallets for local businesses for the past 30 years. Contact the Pallet Recycler at 825-474-1981 to find out why recycled pallets are the most cost-effective way to move and store your product. Learn about our recycling program as well at thepalletrecycler.ca.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Built for real-life confidence. Visit Subaru.ca.
Jump into spring with a refreshing change. It's possible thanks to the Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's Buy More, Save More event. Our knowledgeable Lazy Boy professional in-home design team are here to spark your imagination as you shop amazing store-wide savings. And of course, the more you buy, the more you save. Buy more, save more at both premier Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries locations, South Edmonton Common and the West End, and their factory outlet clearance center at 152nd Street and 137th Ave.
Tired of hearing, "I'm bored"? Bowl Canada has all the info you need to get them into a bowling league. It's all fun, games, and guaranteed smiles. Visit bowlcanada.ca today to sign up. We're ready to roll. Are you?
Jason Gregor isn't just a sports guy. He's a community builder. With over $2 million raised for local charities and his Gregor Foundation, he's making a difference on and off the air. Check out Gregor weekday afternoons on Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back to Hoop City with Paul Sir. I am pleased to be joined this morning by someone we've had on the show many, many times over the years, but it's been a while, Mike. And Michael DeCourcy has been the lead basketball columnist at Sporting News since 1995. Mike also writes with a lot of Canadian content as well. And Mike, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, especially after the first 2 days of March Madness. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Paul. It's nice to talk to you.
Well, it's nice to talk to you as well. Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's go real high level. What were your first impressions of the first 2 days of March Madness?
Yeah, I think that one of the really interesting things that came out of the first couple days is this. I wrote about it on Friday. Is this push by some of the mid majors to declare that they are being put upon and treated badly? And the one that it was primarily coming from Clayman of High Point, Flynn Clayman, and the idea that somehow his team has been mistreated to be a 12 seed from a league that 10 times in the last 15 years, I think, maybe 20, 10 times has gotten a 16 seed. His team gets a 12 seed out of the Big South. And all he's got after they beat Wisconsin, is complaints. That's all he's got. No one will play them. And one of the things that has bothered me the most about this argument is there are two. First of all, and I'm a huge believer in the automatic qualification process, because I don't believe that any championship is real unless every team involved can look at it at the beginning of the year and say, how do I get to play for the championship? Okay, I have to do that. I mean, if you look at the Masters in golf, you win a tournament on the PGA Tour, you're qualified. You finish, I don't know, top 30 in the money rankings or whatever the number is, and you qualify. There are certain qualifications you have to meet. In the U.S. Open tennis, if you're ranked by their computer at X level, you're in. And every sporting event has that. And college football in the U.S. didn't have that until recently. The last 2 years, we get to the end of the year, we'll tell you who's good, which was garbage. But college basketball has always had, you win the Big South, you're in. And of course, it's morphed into you win the Big South tournament, but that's their choice. If they wanted it to be you win the Big South regular season, you get in. That's up to them, but they choose the tournament. Okay, fine. So High Point wins the tournament. They're in. So that's an important component of what makes the NCAA tournament special. But that presents to what are now considered mid-major leagues about 37% of the field of the 68 teams. They automatically get 37% of the field. That's more, Paul. There aren't 37% of the best teams in college basketball are not mid-major. That's the reality. If it were the case, we would see more mid-major champions or more mid-major Final Four teams or even more mid-major Elite Eight teams. We don't see a lot of them because they're not the best teams. But that's okay because, like I said, they should get their chance to show what they're capable of. And they do. But the idea that they are somehow mistreated because High Point can't get games against Duke, if I call the New York Times and say, well, you got to hire me, and the New York Times says no, does that mean I'm not getting a fair deal? No. I mean, so you call Duke and say, you call Duke and say, we want to play, and Duke says, I'm sorry, we don't want to play, and so look, you're being put upon. I mean, it was really frustrating for me to see that become such a loud narrative of the first few days. And this is the second point. The first point is the automatic qualification thing. The second part of it is he complained about the fact Miami of Ohio couldn't get a game, and he couldn't get a game. And my solution to that is, how about you play Miami of Ohio? And the answer to that question was, well, we only had one date open and they only had one date and it didn't fit. That was his answer. They played 2 Division II teams and Miami played 3. You couldn't say, hey, D2 team, we'll play you a different day because we got a chance to play Miami that day or whatever. No, they needed to keep those D2 games. They were too important to lose, but you couldn't play Miami of Ohio. If you look at the teams that either made it or came close, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, St. Louis, San Diego State, New Mexico, all of them had some level of intersection, VCU as well, had some level of intersection with other high-ranking mid-majors, because that's a way to get a good game. If you're VCU and you play at Santa Clara, just use an example. You might not want to make that trip, but it's a long one. But if you do that, you're playing a quad 1 game. It's not automatic because Santa Clara's got to be good and all that. But one of the complaints that Miami of Ohio had in their deal was that Pitt wouldn't play them. Well, Pitt was the 15th place team in the ACC. How is that game better for you than playing High Point or playing VCU or Santa Clara. They are missing the solution that's right in front of them, and they're missing it because in their minds, if the two of us play and one of us loses, well, we're eliminated. Well, that's how it works, man. You got to win games. If you play Missouri and they lose, that maybe they're eliminated. So why should they play it?
Well, and I really like the point that you're making, because to me it dovetails in to the very complicated quagmire that I look at in the NCAA as it's going through this new reality. I always use the example, Mike, that if I was a basketball fan and I was abducted by aliens 10 years ago and somebody brought me back now, I go, I'm not on the right planet. This isn't
Right.
the NCAA anymore. It's also very different. But I like what you're saying. The complaining isn't the right way to go. I have a lot of familiarity with mid-majors, low majors in Division I. And the way they schedule, a lot of it is who you know and how you hustle and how far out you're willing to schedule if you're looking to get into the bloodstream of a high major. You might be able to find something 3 and 4 years down the road. But like you're saying, you have to be more creative and recognize, where you fit in the food chain if you want to move up, as opposed to, using this platform. And the irony, Mike, I really look forward to your comment on this. The irony is the upset that High Point was able to pull off and all of the drama around that. And then you've got a guy who doesn't relish the moment, but rather uses the moment as a sounding board for his complaints for a school, with all due respect, an elitist school. Beautiful little place. I mean, the facilities there are unreal, and they pull off something special, and you got your coach on a soapbox talking about how hard done by you are.
I couldn't believe how miserable he was. And as I pointed out in my column, in the press conference, he said, I think it was something like about 25 to 30 nice words about his team, and then started to complain. But in the on-court interview after they won, in the delirium that usually accompanies that, the first thing he said to the on-court interviewer was, mid-majors, high majors should play mid-majors because they said we didn't play anybody and now we did. Well, first of all, nobody was even talking about High Point. Nobody ever said they didn't play anybody. The only team that there was any level of discussion about that with was Miami. High Point was, okay, of what a mid-major automatic qualifier is likely to get. There are a few. I mean, it's more rare now than it was before the net rankings. What people are complaining about, Paul, is the net and the use of predictive metrics like KenPom and BPI, and the use of resume metrics like wins above bubble to get teams in. People are complaining now because those metrics make sense. And they use them to make intelligent decisions. They want to go backwards to the RPI because then they made mistakes. See, that's what people
really
want.
A great point.
Someone said to me that we should go back to the RPI. I said, that's like asking me to go back and ride to town in a horse-drawn carriage. I mean, it's ridiculous. The RPI was antiquated. It didn't tell you enough about the excellence of a team or the achievements of the team. And now with wins above bubble or strength of record, you have really good resume metrics. A resume metric is one, for those who don't know, that factors out how much you win by. It only talks about what kind of quality of opponent you played, what the result was, and what the venue was. Was it home, neutral, or road? And each of those are valued differently. Obviously, a home win is valued less than a road win. If you beat Kentucky on the road, that means more than if you beat Kentucky at home. And those metrics are right now basically the ticket in. And you can't game that. You can't. You can play challenging schedules and win games. Or you can play, as Miami did, an unchallenging schedule and win every game, and it still values you. They were still 37th in wins above bubble when after they had lost to UMass in the conference tournament. And they were clearly in the field. And it was amazing to me because, I mean, I have done the brackets for Fox Sports in the U.S. now for 7 years. And every single person in that community, the people like Lenardi or Jerry Palm, or the people who do it as a hobby and are really excellent at it, every one of us was saying, they're in. It's over. There's no discussion. And now that we know where the number is set, I mean, because we didn't know exactly, unless like some of the people like who maybe know the math of the wins above bubble would know more, but I don't know the math. I can only look at where's it come out. And so some of the people who might know, they might have been able to calculate what it would be once they lost a game. But I needed to see the finality of it or them win the auto bid, whichever. So once I saw them lose and they went from 31 to 37, that was it. It was over. But there's still this discussion among people who don't know. And you know what's really easy, Paul, is ask the people who do know.
No, why would you want to confuse people with the facts though, Mike? I mean, you would rather just speculating and click on Twitter and start complaining, because I think, people like to, they feel empowered, whether they're operating from a basis of knowledge or not. I'm talking with Michael DeCourcy from the Sporting News here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Mike, I'd like to shift to a couple of specific games. One is the High Point game and the irony in it. And as you're talking about the coach from High Point, I also looked at the coach from Wisconsin at his press conference, and man, that was a classic. That was an unbelievable meltdown, I guess is the best way I could put it. I never liked the Wisconsin team this year, only because I didn't see the character that you associate with Wisconsin teams in the past in terms of how they conducted themselves as they played. So when they lost, and the irony again of the kid who never made a 2 all year going in for a layup to win it, I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. That's one. And the second one was Kentucky. The basketball gods have such a funny way of dealing with March Madness, because it's like the exorcism of the Leitner shot is the guy banking it in a game that a lot of people, myself included, picked Santa Clara to win in, because this is just not a cohesive Kentucky team.
Right.
Comment on those and any other games that you found of particular interest in the.
Well, I did. So that's the thing. Like, I thought that Klayman should have been talking about the job they did, because, for instance, Nick Boyd, who had a terrific year and was such a force, especially with his ability to go left when everyone knew he was going to go left. I mean, I watched him do it against Purdue on Purdue's senior day, a day that should have ended in celebration for Purdue's trio of seniors, 2 of them 4-year starters, the other a 3-year starter. Braden Smith has been All-American 2 years in a row. Trey Kaufman-Renn was All Big Ten last season. I mean, and that should have been a day of celebration. And they spent the entire, what would have been the fourth quarter if it were a game played in quarters, the entire fourth quarter with no idea how to stop Nick Boyd from going left. Absolutely. I mean, he went left. I should have charted it, but he went left at least 8 times in a row to score. And so, okay, so in crunch time against High Point, he goes left, and what does he find? He finds traffic. And the first time he's able to snake through, and instead of making the right decision, which would have been a kick out, he tries to force a reverse layup. It catches the underside of the rim, and it's a miss. And then subsequent to that, they have one last real chance, and he goes left again, and they know he's coming, and they're right there, and they block his shot. And so they should have been talking about how smart they were when a lot of people in the Big Ten couldn't pull that off, and we just did. But instead, they were talking about what they talked about. You looked at that Kentucky game, and there was a lot of conversation afterward about Herb Sendek tried to call timeout. Well, and I didn't think it was fair to the game officials in that instance to criticize them. I mean, it's probably not Herb's fault, but he wasn't ready. Herb was down the bench, because they showed, like, if you see on the internet now, you can see him circled on the bench, and where the official was at the time that the shot that gave St. Mary's the 3-point lead was launched. He was down the bench. Like if you looked at the bench as a ruler, he was probably at about the 4-inch or 4.5-inch mark, and the ref was at about the 10-inch mark.
Yep.
And so he's far away. If he's adjacent, directly adjacent, planning for, hey, if this shot goes in, we're calling timeout. If he's there, the ref is going to hear him and he's going to stop it. But the Kentucky team is entitled to proceed at their pace after they allow a score. They don't have to wait for Santa Clara to say what they want to do. If they want to call timeout themselves, which they couldn't because they had none, if they want to call timeout themselves, they can do that there. But they knew they had none, so they knew their best chance was to face an unsettled defense. It was really well executed. But it's not on the game officials' responsibility to be, okay, Herb, you want a timeout? No, he's reffing the game that is happening in front of him, and Kentucky chose to inbound the ball immediately and do what they did. So Herb Sendek, there should not have been criticism of the game official there. He was doing his job to retreat, get in position to officiate whether or not, say, the shot was impeded by a foul or whether the shot got off in time, all the rest of that.
Whether you're at home, in the car, or on the move, you're never more than a tap away from Sports 1440. Download the radio player or iHeart app today so you can get all access anytime to Edmonton's only sports radio station, Sports 1440.
The deep dive on Hoop City.
I don't even know. 1440, powered by Subaru. Safety, reliability, and uncommon value. Visit Subaru.ca.
Legacy Heating and Cooling offers no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace.
Been done and
so
no-
you wake up to no heat.
Call Legacy.
Deep.
Call Legacy.
If you need it immediately with no overtime rates.
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
If you need it immediately and want to combo it with AC.
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
No payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. It could only be Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park2Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
After spending winter inside, you've decided your home needs an upgrade. And there's no better time than during Buy More, Save More at Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries. Unparalleled quality, unmatched savings store-wide. Need inspiration? Talk to our expert professional in-home design team. And remember, the more you buy, the more you save. Buy more, save more at both premier Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries locations, South Edmonton Common and the West End, and their factory outlet clearance center at 152nd Street and 137th Ave.
If you're looking for non-stop sports coverage, tune into Sports 1440, Edmonton's only sports radio station.
24/7 coverage comes at you with expert commentary, in-depth analysis,
And so much more.
We are Sports 1440.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome to the deep dive on Hoop City with Paul Sir, joined by my good friend Ben Golliver. Ben, we were just talking before we started this, the recording of this, but the otherworldly play of Luka Doncic and the hot play of the Lakers. And you said something before we even talk about Luka that I think is every bit as significant. And that is LeBron is sacrificing. That's it, and genuinely seems happily so. Like, I never expected to see LeBron throw his hands up in excitement at Luka hitting the free throw for his 60. It's refreshing. I would say that it's really refreshing.
Well, LeBron always knows everybody's looking at him, right? And I think early on in the season, if we go all the way back to opening night, I don't know if you remember this, the Lakers played pretty well for the opening month of the season without LeBron. But on opening night, LeBron sat motionless on the bench and wasn't reacting almost no matter what was happening on the court. And it really fueled a lot of questions about, well, wait a minute, LeBron's not out there playing. Shouldn't he be cheering his teammates on? Where's his head at? He didn't get a contract extension from the Lakers. Is he pouting still? lots of weirdness around LeBron. And of course, he sat for an entire month, so all that stuff was allowed to accumulate. And when he came back, they didn't necessarily look a lot better. You know, there were some real questions about, hey, you know, roles with LeBron and Asta and Luka, do they overlap? Can they play defense together? And I think, you know, enough time passes within a season, you start to realize, like, you could be a part of the problem or you could be a part of the solution. And I think for LeBron, he realized, you know, for the first time ever, probably since he was, I don't even know if he even have to do it in like youth ball, he had to take a step back. Luka can run the ship. You know, Austin is a great number 2 scorer. The Lakers actually need him to be the number 3 guy. You know, that fantastic game against Denver last week. Remember, LeBron was diving parallel for a loose ball, and everyone's looking around saying, we have never seen LeBron do that. And nor would you necessarily want him to do that because it kind of risked an injury, right?
Right.
But he saved the possession, and it was a big-time deal late in that game. And it's just symbolic of the idea that, like, hey, less is more from LeBron right now. Save the energy for defense. And I think the biggest difference that I see with this Lakers group right now versus, you know, groups that we've seen lose in the playoffs these last couple of years, when they get to the late in the fourth quarter, Luka is an assassin. He's a killer. He loves it. He's ready for it. And LeBron, because of his age and because of, you know, the lack of depth and the lack of surrounding talent around him these last couple of years, when they would get into those same clutch situations late in the fourth quarter of playoff games, he would be exhausted. He would settle for a lot of jumpers. He wouldn't really get good stuff. And the offense would, you know, kind of come apart. And they really weren't, functioning very well in the biggest moments. Now the Lakers go into the playoffs feeling like we have one of the best clutch guys in the league. I mean, Shea, I would say, is number 1, but Luka's right there, right? I mean, that's a real conversation. That's a real asset when you're looking at how much parity there is in the top of the Western Conference and trying to win a first-round series. And so it's the right basketball decision by LeBron. It's the right personality decision by LeBron. Trust in Luka. Celebrate his successes. Cheer your guys on the bench. They're going to cheer you back if you dive for a loose ball. It has been a weird season because he's on an expiring contract, but that doesn't mean it needs to be a lost season. You know, just buy into the team culture and you'll have a good time. And that's the important part. It looks like he's having fun.
It does look like he's having fun. And the guy's over 40. And he's still, you know, astounding for players of any age. But he's, you know, his skills in certain areas in particular have noticeably diminished. Not that he's not effective. It was just that he was so good before. So it is great to see. It's great for the league to have a star of that magnitude being unselfish and visibly celebrating the success of the team. And let's shift over to the Lakers and the success they're having. It's Luka leading the way. Like this last 10 games, what is it? 40.1 points per game. Like it's just ludicrous numbers. And last night it was a man amongst boys. Like he was toying with everybody.
Yeah.
And doing it at that weird pace he plays at. You know, that's what we've talked about that many times, Ben, where, you know, that slow and steady, slow accelerate to slow, but even the acceleration, it's not blazing by anybody. He's just getting his defender on his hip and he's controlling him. But last night it was down at the YMCA with a really good player, and then the locals showed up, and the guy just owned everybody.
Yeah, and one of the locals was Bam Adebayo, who thought he knew what it was to have a big night. And
Isn't that ironic?
He got a little taste of it right back at it, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Well, one, he looks like he's sort of, the ball of yarn with the cat. That's Luka, right? You're kind of just playing games with your defender, and then eventually, the guy's lost. I would say though, I mean, yeah, you're right. He doesn't do it with the burst acceleration. He's not beating people vertically where he's flying into the paint for dunks and any of that stuff. He does look like he's a little bit quicker, though. Like he's turning the corner. He's getting to his spots more smoothly. I don't know if it's just his body that happens to be in a really good place right now. Maybe he's lost a little bit of weight. It really does seem like he fluctuates weight-wise within the course of a season quite a bit. I think he puts it on and takes it off much faster than the average player, which could be dangerous as he gets, once he turns past 30 and 40, it's going to be harder to take it back off. But, I think we all learned that lesson.
No, just wait, Ben. Just wait.
It gets harder and harder and harder. Okay.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. Well, so it's just awesome to see Luka peaking because, we haven't really seen the best of Luka, I would say, since that finals run with the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, remember the incredible Western Conference Finals against Minnesota where he's just hitting dagger shot, dagger shot. He was in that flow state, the zone that all the guys talk about where he just can't miss. That's what it feels like when he has 60 against Miami, and there's just no answer for him. It's the helplessness feeling that we want these superstars to generate for the defense. And for Luka, I mean, he's had great numbers all season, but it really hasn't, felt that way. You feel like he's very good. You don't feel like, oh, he has a case as the best player in the league. But this recent stretch, it's just been him playing lights out. I mean, there was that one move the other night, I think it was against Houston, where he went behind his back to split a double at the top. He drives in the paint and just tosses the perfect no-look pass for a dunk, and he does it all in like 1 second. And you're like, oh my God, this is better than video games, And
really
even the crowd down in Houston, it's all Lakers fans. They're going crazy on the road, So it has that ability to just break a team spirit, And I think he's done that a bunch to these teams recently, and that's what he was known for at the peak of his Dallas days. And it's just great to see him back there because it's been a while,
It has been, and it's great. Again, I go back. It's great not just for the Lakers, but for the league to have a superstar in Luka emerging again, particularly as we get to the end of the season and with the intrigue of the playoffs coming up. Thunder are playing extremely well.
They sure are.
My gosh, they're just like a buzzsaw. But the Spurs are playing extremely well. Wemby's talking about winning last night. Like he has a monster game. What did he have? 34 and 12. Hit the game winner. Mobbed by his teammates afterwards, as for the first time since 2019, the Spurs are in the playoffs, guaranteed in the playoffs. So now you got those two, but now you got the Lakers kind of creeping into the conversation, being better. Not saying they can beat the Thunder, but they certainly are going to be a topic of conversation. I want to talk a little bit about the Wolves because they're kind of schizophrenic right now too, along with Denver. Those are my two questions. In fact, why don't we go there? My two question marks in the West for top-tier teams right now are Denver and Minnesota. Denver would struggle to stop people at the YMCA right now. They just are not able to formulate a defensive wall. They're just sponges. Like they're just allowing stuff happening. What's your take on what's going on there? Yeah, they're missing Peyton Watson, but that isn't the guy you would think your team's success is going to rise and fall on as well as he's played this year. But what's your take on what's going on in Denver?
Well, I think the big hope was that once Aaron Gordon got back, the defense was going to have that integrity, that backbone that you rightly point out has been missing. He's helped. He's a phenomenal player, but team defense has to be played by five guys. They give up too many blow-bys on the perimeter. And then Joker, to me, his defense, it fluctuates. I mean, there's been some years where he's pretty effective, and the advanced stats say he's actually great because he's so good at defensive rebounding and he takes up a lot of room in the paint. But this year, the lateral movement to come over to help or to cover up for a guy getting blown by, the extra effort plays that you sometimes need to make, he's just not making them. And I don't know if it's still a residual of the injury absence that he had earlier this season. I don't know if he's conserving his energy because he's playing so many minutes. I don't know if he just simply can't do it. He's a big guy. It's really hard to move a lot, on defense. And so it's possible he's just kind of coasting and doing the minimum on that end, but it doesn't look right. And so I do think that their defensive problems, I mean, they start on the perimeter for sure as well, but I think they kind of start with Joker right now. And you look at their lack of depth and there's recurring injury issues they've had this season. It's put a ton on their main guys playing huge minutes, and that will catch up with you. The league is just too fast and the schedule is too tough. Something has to give. And so I think that's probably the issue. The problem, though, is that, if you're trying to go into a tough playoffs, first round series, it's going to be tough, whoever they play. The idea that you could just flip a switch and everyone's going to be able to play 40 minutes and it's going to be a high effort and all that, that's not how it works, right? You got to build the momentum and the habits to get there. I think there's a decent chance they lose in the first round, depending on their matchup. And that would certainly be a disappointing season. We also have to look back at the Michael Porter Jr. trade. Cam Johnson has not given them enough in his spot. And they don't have enough other good players. Like, if they still have Michael Porter Jr., they might be able to survive a little bit of a Peyton Watson, right? Because they have more firepower. They've got a guy who's a little bit more size, rebounding. Cam Johnson out there looks scared half the time. He looks frightened. He's not really contributing. He doesn't really trust his jumper. He's not going to, really do much. I mean, he's a pretty limited role player on offense in terms of, cuts and shots. That's all, 3-pointers. That's all he's going to give you. And so that spot feels like a hole, and that makes me nervous going to the playoffs too, because the pressure's not even up yet and he's already starting to falter. So I'm nervous for Denver. I think the whole season I was thinking we're on a crash course, OKC versus Denver, but I think the Spurs wiggled their way into that crash course. It feels like that's the real crash course. These two young teams with all the depth and all the star power, feels like we're going to get that matchup at some point.
Wow, does that sound tasty?
Yeah.
that is delicious, because the thought of that young talent, the athleticism, like the Spurs are so fun to watch.
Well, I was going to ask you, they got to be number one on your watchability for teams you want to see in this year's playoffs, right? Number one by far.
By far, 100%, because the way they play, they have such a beautiful balance of blending their talents together. And when Wemby is on, the alien moniker is so deserved, because you watch that guy. That last shot last night, I was watching it and I was going, that guy's 7'5", and he's playing like he's 6'5", like literally 6'5". The movement, the skill set, the jabs, the pump fakes, the step, the footwork, everything technically is just superb. And he's 7'5" and nimble and athletic. Yeah, I love watching the Spurs play. I love how they play defense. I love how they work together. I love how they go. They seem to have a good sense of when to go individual and when to play team. They're really well coached, as are the Thunder. And that's what makes it so really, really interesting, I think.
Well, you said it earlier that this is the first playoff appearance for San Antonio since 2019. I don't think we should just skip over that, because if you go back 10 years and I told you they were going to miss the playoffs for like 6-7 seasons in a row, no one ever would have believed it. No. Every single year you just pencil them into the playoffs like you would pencil Duke into the bracket, right? It's just, they're going to be there no matter what. They'd been there for like 20 straight years. It took them a long time to come out of the wilderness. And I think that's, obviously it's a dramatic, game-winning type shot. They qualify for the playoffs. It's a big moment. But I do think that's why you saw such it felt like a baseball locker room when that team clinches the pennant, right? These guys are jumping all over the court, and they're shoving. I don't think they're going to shove Wemby over because they're like pushing him in the chest. They're all so excited for him. It just was a beautiful scene. And I think it's not only because it's been a journey for Wemby to get here in year 3. He had the blood clot and a challenging rookie season. But I also think it's been a journey for that franchise where a lot of those guys have been there for a really long time. If you're talking about the coaching staff and front office and even an older player like Keldon Johnson, he's been in the wilderness for a long time with this group, right? And so I think that's why it was so satisfying for them. But that's the best part about the NBA playoffs. You can celebrate for one day that you made it, right? But then you got a new task, right? And I think just real quickly on Oklahoma City, they are playing incredible basketball. The buzzsaw, I think, is exactly the right word. They're still not fully healthy, but it doesn't matter. It feels to me, these are long seasons, right? And the best teams, they kind of know when to kick it into gear. They know when to close. They can see the finish line, so we're going to kick, That feels like what they're doing. And when they really hit 6th gear, I don't think anybody can stay with them, right? So that's really, to me, it's a scary sign for everybody else. San Antonio has given them a lot of problems this year. I think it could be a great series if that's the Western Conference Finals. But everybody else needs to be looking around at Oklahoma City saying, oh, no, we were hoping that they were going to start faltering. We were hoping they were going to run out of gas. And instead, it's going the other way.
It really is going the other way. What I like about watching Oklahoma City, and you touched on it, they know when to go on the gas. I would even put that in the context of game to game.
Yeah.
They really know how to accelerate in a game, that mastery, again, of the flow of the game. They don't let themselves get too far out of it. If they are out of it a bit, they find their way back into it. Then when they get to the fourth quarter, they take control. They just take it up to a slightly different level. They're so versatile and so deep, and their players are in such sync. And I think too, Ben, you have to give, you just can't avoid giving too much credit to SGA and the way he plays. Like, yes, he's so great individually, but he's so efficient, and he's such a willing passer and making everybody better. Like, he's that dream superstar teammate, really. And he's humble. Like when he hit the shot that broke Wilt's record, you would never have known it in a million years that he did anything special.
Right. Well, not from him. You know it from the crowd, though, because the crowd loves him so much, which is a beautiful moment, right?
Really
but yeah,
was.
he doesn't preen. He doesn't do a lot of the crazy stuff. Every once in a while, he hits a game winner and he'll give you a little celebration. But his steadiness and his consistency is what makes them go. It's the foundation for the whole organization. They've built their group around that skill set, just like the Warriors built their entire team around Steph shooting, right? It's exactly the same thing, or Steph's joy, if you want to put it that way as well. It's interesting. You talk about them within a game. So they know if they get to crunch time, they have the best closer in the league, right? So there's so much confidence for this group now, if they're in the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, that he's just going to find a way to do it because he's done it so many times. The other thing that they're really good at, though, and this is a shared characteristic with some of the best teams in NBA history, if you waste your time at halftime and you're just eating orange slices and you're messing around on your phone and you come out in that second half, you're going to get your butt kicked. They're going to run all over you right at the start of that third quarter. And so you have to bring your most focus, your best game, regardless of what the score is, when you're coming out of halftime against these guys, because they will just hit you so fast. And they get a lot of their blowouts. They might even be down in the first half, but they could blow it out at the start of that third quarter. The Warriors, with their peak years, when they had KD and Steph, that was their whole thing. It's like, we don't really care about the first half. We're going to win the third quarter 30-12, and the game's over, right? And Oklahoma City is very, very good at that as well. So, playing them, it's like playing a challenging video game. It's like, okay, don't get blown out in the first quarter. Try to keep it close in the second quarter. Do whatever you can to hang in there in the third quarter, and then pray shit doesn't kill you at the end, right? It's like that's a tough challenge, man. Easier said than done.
Own and run a small business? Innovative Benefits provides private health service plan setup, as well as administration services for businesses like yours. But the best part is, Innovative Benefits offers benefit plans that cost less than the industry average, 20 to 40% less. And they provide 100% coverage with no insurance company rules, administration, or interference. So if you have medical, dental, or healthcare expenses, their plans will always increase your cash flow. Visit innovativebenefits.ca for more.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all 3 of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different jobs.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. The perfect choice for Alberta's challenging weather and road conditions. Visit Subaru.ca.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the #1 heating and cooling company for people who want heating and cooling, because you'll save a bundle by bundling. Then you can use hot, cold, hot, cold. Come on, thermostat, do what you're told. Turn up the heat, turn up the cold till the vents start pushing out tornadoes. Bundle my furnace with some AC. Gonna get a deal from Legacy. Oh yeah, save a bundle when you bundle your new furnace and AC from Legacy today. Plus no payments and no interest for 1 year. That's how you build your legacy. Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Easier said than done, and no one's figured out how to do it just yet. So
that's right.
We're going down a stretch run in the West, which is really going to be epic. I'm talking with Ben Golliver today. We're in the deep dive here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Talk about the Wolves a little bit. Like there have been now, and I have to admit, I've been kind of in the back of the press room with a bit of a few question marks creeping into the back of my mind about not just the Wolves. They're a strangely constructed team. I think that's fair to say, but I think Finch and his staff, in some respects, in many respects, have found a way to be functional together. But the question that's coming in, and I think it's exemplified in the last couple of games when Ant hasn't been in there, is how good, like, Anthony Edwards is not anything even resembling SGA at this point in his career in terms of his consistent ability to close out games. He can close out some games, and he does. And here's my specific example, Ben, that I'd be curious about your question about. Trying to remember who he hit the shot against, but he hit a deep fadeaway in the corner. That was against the Spurs, I think, when they didn't have Wemby, when the Wolves won. And Edwards hits a shot fading away, magnificent shot. His reaction was to go over and get in his coach's face and start yelling at him. That was his exuberance, this weird, immature, strange, almost confrontational display of that's what I do is kind of what was taken from it. SGA breaks Wilt's record, and it was just another day at the office.
Yeah.
Edwards, so many technicals and unpredictability. His usage, holding onto the ball, I feel uncomfortable on a lot of possessions. So, and he's really good. He's really good. But is he championship team leading good? And is he the guy that Finch and his staff are going to say, you know what, we got to do everything through him as we get to the playoffs and in the playoffs? Everything's got to run through Edwards. When you've got some pretty competent other players who really do some good things too. And what I've noticed is that with Edwards out, as often happens, Randall has asserted himself again, and McDaniels is more into the flow. DeSunmo has been a great pickup for them. He's really done a great job. But does everything come to a screeching halt? Too much so to be a serious contender when Edwards is there. Sorry for the long dissertation,
No.
but I wanted to set the table.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the Timberwolves. And so I think, first of all, I am one of those people who says to star players, be yourself, right? Now, if you need to just make some tweaks so that the guy's not screaming at his coach, we don't need everybody to be SGA, right? We want you to be yourself because the best
100%.
version of you is where you're comfortable and you're feeling like you're authentic. So I don't necessarily want to crush him for some of the demonstrative stuff that he does on the court. Of course, you don't want the technical fouls. So that goes without saying. I think that he and Finch have a very interesting relationship where Finch is one of the few coaches in the NBA who can actually get up in his star's face and understand that his star is going to take the criticism and maybe, give it back a little bit. And they feel like they don't take it personally. And so it's a very unique dynamic. So I give both those guys a lot of leash, and I trust that it's not negative, even though it would look strange if it was anybody else. I mean, I've seen Luka yell at Rick Carlisle when he was in Dallas, and it looked a lot like Anthony Edwards with what you're talking about. But I would not give a pass for that because, it was so personal, so negative. And ultimately, Rick Carlisle leaves as coach, right? And so you know it's not a healthy dynamic. The Timberwolves' whole game plan is we're not necessarily the smartest team. We're not the most polished team. We are going to be more physical than you, and often we're going to be bigger than you. We're going to punish you. It's worked in the playoffs in certain matchups. They beat a Lakers team that didn't have a center. They beat the Warriors, who were pretty undersized last year, and especially once Steph was out, they didn't have the firepower to kind of go toe-to-toe there. They even beat the Nuggets a couple of years ago when the Nuggets ran out of gas. Right. They just exhausted them. So they're a tricky team to match up with. But I think that the challenge is for this group, and the number one coaching challenge that Finch had this season was this team has made the Western Conference Finals twice in a row. They're going to assume that they can do it again when they get into the playoffs, regardless of what happens during the regular season. And I think what ends up happening is that they're bored. They've taken their foot off the gas a lot during this regular season.
Yeah,
and I think they built up some bad habits, right? And the idea, Anthony's always going to be able to save us, Anthony Edwards, right? Or, we know we could be more physical than our opponent once we get there. And I'm not sure that's the case. I think there's some really good teams here that are tough matchups for them. You look at San Antonio, Oklahoma City has given them tons and tons of fits. I don't think that they're guaranteed to even win a first-round series this year. And that could be, they're kind of in that same Denver category to me where, they're like a little tier down. And so if you get the best version of Ant, we saw him kill the Phoenix Suns single-handedly a couple of years ago, just with spectacular scoring. but he's not as consistent as SGA, right? The decision making isn't always as good. And then we also saw at the end of last year's Western Conference Finals, he quit, and so you have to make sure that doesn't happen again. That's the number one goal for this playoffs. If I'm a Timberwolves fan, is even if they lose, I want to see it competitive down to the very, very last second, because if he quits again, then you're going to start to wonder, is he going to quit every time it gets tough, right? And so that's sort of what I see from the Wolves, but it's been disappointing this season. I think that the door was open for them to be top tier home court advantage type team, cruising, and because they had the pedigree from these last couple of years, but they didn't address their point guard spot, until they got to Sunmo. And he's not really a point guard. He's more of that defensive energy guy. And so it puts a lot on Edwards to be a facilitator, and he's a good facilitator, but he's not a great facilitator.
Well said. And I like your point about athletes have to be themselves. Here's my subcategory of that. When yourself is not necessarily right word isn't appropriate, but when it's not necessarily what the team needs, correct, is you up in your face, then that part of yourself, maybe you want to revisit it and say, I can modify that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Ja Morant, go do the Instagram videos. You can just be you. There's definitely,
I know what you mean.
There's some restrictions to it, but obviously, you got to keep the group dynamic in mind. But if a guy wants to, jump up on a scores table after hitting a game winner because that's his first inclination, go for it. Have fun. This is supposed to be entertainment. This is supposed to be sports. And I do think Anthony Edwards is a pretty good teammate. You listen to his interviews. He hypes up his guys so much. He talks about Mike Conley constantly. He's always trying to feed, some positive encouragement to Gobert. Jaden McDaniels is like his favorite player on the earth. If you listen to Anthony Edwards and you never watch Jaden McDaniels play, you would think that Jaden McDaniels is a top 5 player in the NBA based on how Anthony Edwards talks about him, right? So, he's a very empowering leader and obviously a very charismatic guy.
Absolutely.
But I'm not saying he's perfect either. I think there's some moments where you could steer the energy a little bit better.
And I'm hoping for the long suffering Timberwolves fans that they can maybe right the ship a bit and get more on a consistent path so they go into the playoffs correcting some of those weaknesses or bad habits I think you correctly identify that have kind of crept in through the years. I only want to touch on one team in the East because there's something else I really want to get to that you wrote recently about Caitlin Clark, which was outstanding, by the way. But it's Detroit. Cade Cunningham, collapsed lung. Man, A, that's scary stuff, but B, with this fantastic season that they built on last year's turnaround season, to have their leader who has been just such a I love watching Cunningham play. The blend of athleticism, power, and skill he's really a unique player, but really a delight to watch. And they've taken kind of the best of the bad boy tradition. They're not Bill Laimbeer, thank God, but they've taken that, they've kind of assumed that moniker a bit in their style of play. Bickerstaff, their coach, kind of celebrates that too. But it's exciting to see a team like Detroit, similar to Minnesota, long-suffering fans, be able to assert themselves. So what is Cunningham's status to the best of your understanding right now, Ben?
Well, they said he's going to be out, quote unquote, an extended period of time. They didn't really put a timeline on it. I think the only positive I could tell for Pistons fans is that, CJ McCollum had a similar injury and he came back in like a couple weeks. And when you hear collapsed lung, you think this could be like season ending, playoff ending. Right. Not necessarily. There's a chance he could get back for the playoffs, right? But time is of the essence right now. I mean, we're getting pretty darn close to the start of the playoffs. And you also want him, you don't want it to be a Damian Lillard situation where you're rushing back to try to get in that first game and then something goes wrong. Like you want to have a ramp up period, right? And so I think my concern when I'm looking at the Pistons now is everybody's heard of the tortoise and the hare, right? I'm worried they're the hare, and and it's scary, and it'd be really sad if that's how it played out. But if you're a team now, if you're in the play-in tournament field in the Eastern Conference, a lot of times that group you're around 500, sometimes even under 500, and you look around and it's kind of like, well, 3-2-1 Cancun. What's the point of this? And those games get pretty forgettable pretty quickly. If you're one of those teams right now, especially if you're their coach, you call a meeting today and you say, guys, we have a legit chance. If we can get out of this play-in tournament and we play Detroit, that team is, I mean, I'm not saying nothing without Cade, but they are, fundamentally altered if Cade's not out there at 100% because they're so leveraged on his scoring and playmaking ability. We can beat those guys. They're vulnerable, right?
Exactly.
So let's take care of our business and let's make a run. I mean, that's some real hope. So, there's a bunch of teams, in that mix, young teams, especially somebody like Charlotte, maybe, right?
Oh my God, Charlotte, they're scary.
Right. Well, and so now you got a real chance. And I've watched Charlotte lose that play-in game by 30 points every year. I mean, every time they're in it, it's a disaster. So go out there, take care of your business, and then go beat the Pistons, right? And I think that's obviously not what Detroit fans want to say. And my whole family's from Michigan, so I understand. I mean, it's a tough day. It really is. But I hope he's back quickly. And then I also hope, this could provide a little spice to that Eastern Conference playoff bracket.
100%. Ben, you noted in one of your articles, and you and I have touched on it, the WNBA finally, after a number of marathon sessions, was able to ink a deal. There's still a couple of hurdles they have to get through in terms of the approval process, but for all intents and purposes, looks like it's done. Looks like we're going to have a season. It's going to be on time, a little hurried. I wouldn't want to comment on how they handled it, but hey, growing pains, it's done. But there's one reason they got what they got, and you wrote about her.
Yeah.
People can say, oh, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese came into the league. If Caitlin Clark didn't come into the league, Angel Reese wouldn't be the star she is today in terms of in people's minds. Caitlin Clark is Tiger Woods. She's Michael Jordan. She is that transformational player, and nobody has done it better, nor with more class. And of course, I'm an Iowa homer, but it doesn't matter. She's avoided, as far as I can see, the most controversial thing that I've seen Clark do, other than whine at the refs far too much, but she kind of ignored Angel Reese in the recent qualifiers one time. But overall, she's handled things with tremendous grace and poise. You wrote a great article. Talk about your article and what the focus was.
Well, first things first, I hope that was accidental, with the missed handshake there.
It could have been.
It's certainly possible. And I don't think that, from what I understand, I don't think there's huge lingering resentment between the two of them. And they're going to be teammates on USA Basketball for possibly 12, 15 years. So
3 Olympics. It could be 3 Olympics together.
Yeah. Probably a good idea to iron that out, now. But keep the healthy rivalry too. I mean, it's obviously great for business, and it's obviously great for stoking fan interest. You called yourself an Iowa homer. I had never been to Iowa, other than driving through maybe very briefly on a road trip cross country prior to covering Caitlin Clark when she was there. And she's the type of person who'll make anybody an Iowa homer. I mean, when you play the basketball with that flair, when you can shoot it from half court, when you're the best passer in the sport, like in your sophomore year of college, you're probably the best passer anywhere at any level, right? It's just magnetic. Now, this deal is definitely a big win, but what really gets me excited is that they did not go down the let's play this out and try to have a real labor stoppage. Let's strike. Let's potentially risk a season. Let's put some of this momentum at risk and potentially throw it all away to try to get a bigger win now. They got a really good deal. I mean, in some cases, the max numbers, they're going up by like multiples, right? So players are going to be getting significantly more money. But what I'm so excited about is the next deal they signed, because the NBA had a very similar situation. If you go back to 2011, they had a lockout. They actually wound up having to drag and delay it to the start. The start of the season was late until Christmas. They had to play a 66-game season. And, that short-term pain there, it set up the next labor deal where everybody got rich beyond their wildest imaginations, right? I mean, the league just skyrocketed. They put themselves in a good position so that everybody was making money, ownership is investing in teams, and then the players just got these incredible returns that we see now with $60 million contracts and $70 million contracts. So is the WNBA going to get to that level in their next deal? No. But I'll bet you they're now in position to build on their momentum. Caitlin's going to be the face of this deal coming back. She was named MVP of that USA Basketball tournament, and she looked phenomenal. She looked healthy. I have like just exchanged a message here and there with her. She sounds like she's in a great place. She put that nightmare sophomore season behind her, last year where she was injured the whole time. Imagine if she, let's just say hypothetically, she wins an MVP this year, maybe they're in the finals, maybe she's winning a championship next year. What that's going to do for the growth of the sport financially and where this league could be. So the fact that they were able to get a good win now and set up a greater win later, to me, it was smart strategy and it was in everybody's benefit. And my story about Caitlin was only just, the night she made history when she broke Kelsey Plum's record for the most career points in NCAA history. And I was at that game and, she pulls up from that 3-pointer, one step inside half court and everybody knows it, all the pressure's on. National television, everybody's watching, dozens of media members to get there. Rumors that Taylor Swift is going to show up, bouncing around the arena before the game, that people are that excited. And to have the poise and the feel for the moment to come through like she did. And it wasn't just one 3-pointer. It was 49 points and 11 assists, and to put up 100+ points in a conference game against a good team in Michigan, to just bring your best at the biggest time. Was so impressive, and it was just one more reminder to me is that she's different. She is special. You're not hyperbolic to say she has a Tiger Woods like impact. It's a factual statement, and so now we get to see how this unfolds. I can't wait for the season. Let's get it here as quickly as possible.
Well, and think of that. You're saying that now, and a couple of weeks ago we were all saying, are they even going to have a season?
Right.
Man, oh man, have they, the management, it looks like the players are screwing it up. They're saying the wrong stuff. They're sending the wrong message. Luckily, smarter, cooler heads behind the scenes were keeping their focus. They full court pressed when they had to get the deal done. Everybody understood, as you just articulated so well, what was at stake. Now the lowest paid player is paid more than the highest paid player was last year.
Sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty good to me. I think you made some good steps. So, and you've got Caitlin back healthy. You got Paige Beckers, star status, Asia Wilson, unreal player, Angel Reese and her personality. You got all these and you got
expansion too. You got some new franchises. Some new energy.
One in Toronto, which and I've had a number of conversations with their president, who happens to be from the Twin Cities area, and so I look now, and like you said, I'm excited about the future, but one of the aspects I'm most excited about is all the conversation that has been there about investment in women's sports is one of the great growth areas for companies to start thinking about. And we had this kind of sputter last year, in spite of the numbers going up in attendance and TV. That's all well and good. But what will it be now? I wonder what the numbers are going to be now for when Caitlin's playing. Or when Caitlin plays Beckers, and Wilson against Clark and the Fever. My God. And now the investment that could come in that could accelerate that wealth building, as well as league growth, attention to sport. And boy, do women need, young girls need role models like the WNBA players right now because of the declining numbers of female participation in sport in general. So they can be a real catalyst for change and good as well. So it transcends everything, but it all hinged on getting this darn deal done.
Well, you said it very well on the macro level, and I would just tell your listeners, on the micro level, if you're anywhere near Toronto, go buy a ticket and watch these ladies play. Especially if you can get when the Fever come to town. I know the ticket price is probably going to be pretty high for that game. It is different when you see it in person, and especially if you've got, like you're saying, young daughters or young sons who are, starting to get into sports and taking basketball more seriously. If you really want to get them hooked, take them to go see one of these games, because every time I've ever seen Caitlin in person, even her first playoff game when she was, shooting like Kobe, 19-year-old Kobe, where, there's a lot of air balls, and it was like, can't remember what it was from the field, but it was not a very memorable night. Other than she got hit in the face and it sparked a controversy. It was still an amazing show, right? Like you're just sitting on the edge of your seat thinking like, what's going to happen next? And right. That's the type of feeling that she has and inspires. And so that's why I would say on the micro level, if you like basketball, you're listening to Paul Sir, get yourself out to one of these Toronto games.
Whether you're at home, in the car, or on the move, you're never more than a tap away from Sports 1440. Download the radio player or iHeart app today so you can get all access anytime to Edmonton's only sports radio station, Sports 1440. Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Confidence in motion. Visit Subaru.ca.
Roll into fun with Bowl Canada. Our kids' bowling leagues are the perfect way to let your child make new friends and learn new skills. Visit bowlcanada.ca now to get rolling. Let's make memories one frame at a time.
Jump into spring with a refreshing change. It's possible thanks to the Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery's Buy More, Save More event. Our knowledgeable Lazy Boy professional in-home design team are here to spark your imagination as you shop amazing store-wide savings. And of course, the more you buy, the more you save. Buy more, save more at both premier Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries locations, South Edmonton Common and the West End, and their factory outlet clearance center at 152nd Street and 137th Ave.
Legacy Heating and Cooling offers no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. So when you wake up to no heat,
Call Legacy.
if you need it immediately with no overtime rates, if you need it immediately and want to combo it with AC,
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. It could only be Legacy Heating and Cooling.
If you're looking for non-stop sports coverage, tune into Sports 1440, Edmonton's only sports radio station.
24/7 coverage comes at you with expert commentary, in-depth analysis,
And so much more.
We are Sports 1440.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, Hoop City. I hope you enjoyed the interviews because I'm really proud of the fact that we're able to bring on people that are so deeply embedded in the courtside world, the courtside weeds, if you will, of the game of basketball. I mean, you literally are courtside with Mike DeCourcy in not just in the games, but in what goes into creating the games and the ecosystem around the games in the NCAA. And the same, of course, goes for Ben Golliver. I mean, Ben, he's at the games, he's in the locker rooms, he's talking about being in Iowa, being in the stadium with Caitlin Clark's breaking the all-time scoring record. I mean, the knowledge, the connection that they bring to you is just so direct. I feel like one of those internet marketing groups. We take out the middleman. That's what we're here to do. We're taking out the middleman and bringing the truth to you, and the truth shall set you free. But what it'll make you is hopefully it'll help you enjoy the game of basketball better, and that's really our goal here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. What's our poll looking like, Josh?
Yeah, so Duke, 100% of the people who have voted have said Duke will make the Final Four.
100%, really?
Oh, yeah. There are Duke believers out there.
Blue Devils.
The Blue Devils. Okay, how about you guys? Where do you fall on that? Josh?
Oh, yeah, I was one of the votes. I think they'll make it. I think they have a tough path, but I think they're just really well put together. I think Cameron Boozer plays a good style of game to win these games as a guy who can put up 20 and 10. And has all season. I like, you got to sort of lean on your best players, and I think he can do it.
And he'll be player of the year this year.
Yeah.
So how about you, Mandeep?
I'm going to say no. Love John Char. Love the Duke Blue Devils. Always been a huge fan. But I just think that there's too much talent everywhere else. I think that there's too many options for them to get got. They have to have a pretty incredible game from the Boozer twin. Not just Cameron. I think Caden as well. You have to have good games from both the Boozers.
That was the best I saw Caden play in the last game. In their worst game, he had his best game.
And he was almost the reason they won. Like, he kept them in the game for...
It wasn't Cameron this time.
Yeah, it was Caden. So I do think that they can get got. And I think that there's so many other teams when you look at that bracket that can get them. And I think today they lose, to be honest with you.
They could. I don't disagree. Here's what I saw the other night, which is troubling. Number one, they're banged up. And that to me is, if they were completely healthy, I don't think we'd be having this discussion, to be honest. But I think now, the other night, you had a good example with Siena, 16th seed, figuring out a couple of wrinkles in their defenses, which is one of the reasons why I love the NCAA, is 30-second clock, narrow key. You can't believe the impact that has on your game planning compared to FIBA rules. Timeouts, being able to call timeouts in mid-play, saving possessions. Like, all of those factors are unique to the NCAA and the modern basketball world. And I think that if Duke were healthy, I don't think we'd have this discussion. But I don't, in that bracket, I don't see them making it out. And it could be as early as today, or it could be whoever wins between St. John's and Kansas, or it could be between whoever wins if Michigan State and UConn get there. Whoever, those are big games that they have to win. And if they're banged up, I don't know that they can win all of those games.
I don't know if you've followed, but Rick Pitino, I don't think is losing this year.
Rick Pitino's, he has found, but I think you're right. Yeah. Pitino is a renaissance as a coach, because I think whatever demons he brought on himself have been exorcised.
Yep.
And he has these Johnnies, and now I get a chance to do my Iowa thing that I do every week and bore Josh to death. But I looked at the UNI St. John's game as a measurement of where we're at in the March Madness. Could a team like UNI, vastly inferior talent-wise, but has fewest turnovers, best defense in the country, could they impose their will on St. John's and be able to slow them down enough so the game would come down to a 58-58 minute to go game? Obviously not. They got their butts handed to them by St. John's. Clearly superior. And to your point about Rick Pitino, he had his guys ready. And Coach Ben Jacobson, who's a great coach at UNI, you can have your guy. He could have had his guys as ready as possible. Didn't matter. St. John's was just going to roll them over.
Yeah, and to be fair, for Rick Pitino, this is probably 3-4 years coming.
Oh yeah,
like last year they were right there. So St. John's, this is a building step, but I think that this is,
could be.
Yeah, this is their time to actually get to the Final Four and kind of make noise in this tournament.
Absolutely, it very well could be. I have a quick announcement regarding 3x3, which people may know, as you can see with my sweatshirt. I started a nonprofit called the 3x3 Basketball Association, and the goal is the development and expansion of 3x3 into the basketball ecosystem. Since 2018, every year, except for the COVID year, we've hosted a major international event in Edmonton, both downtown and in West Edmonton Mall, and they've been fabulous events with some of the top Olympic teams from around the world. We will not be hosting it this year. A decision was made this week to take a year off and build towards 27 and 28. And there are lots of reasons for that, primarily financial, but there are other reasons as well. But we will be doing a number of local 3x3 events and programs within the city of Edmonton, but also across Alberta and hopefully across Canada. So we'll have some announcements over the next 2 weeks regarding 3x3 moving forward. We're disappointed not to bring back the women's series because of our outstanding, largely Alberta and Edmonton-based women's series team members. But on the other hand, sometimes a breather, you can come back stronger. And I firmly believe that's what we will be doing in this particular situation. So disappointed, yes. Excited, also a bigger yes, about what the future will hold for 3x3 and its growth and development. We didn't talk anything about the women's first day of March Madness, but you know what?
Because South Carolina just rolls everybody.
In their bracket, not overall.
Yeah, but it just feels like they're going to be right there at the end.
Well, I think all four I'd be shocked if all four number one seeds aren't there. The disparity between the top 4 seeds in particular, but even the top 8 seeds and the rest of the field, it's getting better. It's narrowing down, but it's not there yet. I love the conversation I had with Ben Golliver about the WNBA getting their deal done.
Yeah, shout out to them. Congrats to WNBA getting that.
Oh yeah, done. So important. That the
good deal too.
Yeah, they got a good. I mean,
you can't be unhappy with
that.
You can be, as they've proven. You can be unhappy,
but
you can't be unhappy with that when your lowest paid player is now paid more than the highest paid player was last year.
Now, can they just make the product better? Hopefully.
I think the product's just fine.
I think it's actually one of the worst products that we have in professional sports. I think the NCAA tournament with women's basketball is 10 times the product. And that is part of the reason why I think that
you mean
they
in
really
quality
struggled.
of play or attitude of players or combination?
Combination.
Of both? Okay,
I think all
interesting.
of it is
but
a product.
here's the difference. Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
There's only one reason they have this deal.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark. Like news reporters will go out of their way to say, oh, it was so great when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese came into the league. Angel Reese could have come into the league and wouldn't have made a difference without Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
It was because she was the antagonist to Caitlin Clark
Yeah.
that it was a big deal. Now you've got Caitlin back. She was MVP in the qualifiers for the FIBA World Cup. She's back, and that changes everything. You couldn't have scripted it better for the WNBA to get this deal, bring Caitlin back, have Paige Beckers, Asia Wilson, all of these great players, a good draft class coming up. So it's but I think the product's getting so much better. I hope they are, though. And I relate this so to the NBA. A lot of the machinations and goings on in the NBA drive me nuts. Like when you're watching a game and what the guys have to do. So anyway, we're going to have to wrap things up at every time at this juncture of the show. I pay tribute to my son, Ben, who wrote David's song, which was a tribute Ben wrote to his friend David Finkelman, who lost his life unnecessarily at an intersection by a careless driver. And my son, Ben, battled with trauma and addiction, and we lost him almost 3 years ago. But from that, we try to honor Ben through the living our best lives in making sure that we tell those that we love and are important in our lives how much they matter to us and how much we love them, but also being kind to others, even the people you don't know who you run across. Always be kind first. Think the best of people first, because you don't have any idea what's going on in their lives. We're not walking in our brothers' and sisters' shoes. So be kind to each other.
Amen.
Manib, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Josh, you're the man.
Hey,
what can you say?
Do the best I can.
Yeah,
I'm looking
just a
forward to
humble
next
little
week
guy.
already.
No, next week's going to be fantastic. Enjoy March Madness, everybody. Men, women, enjoy the NBA. I mean, Luka Doncic, 60. Luka looks like he's at his absolute best. Have a great week on and off the court. Enjoy the insanity. This has been Hoop City with Paul Sir, and we look forward to seeing you again next week here on Sports 1440.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on